your greatest success and your greatest failure. People want to know, how did you keep going so consistently, over 4 years? Share that if you would.
My greatest failure as an entrepreneur was the time I went about a year and a half in complete and utter stagnation. And this was actually right after I graduated from college. During that period of time, I was honestly kind of lazy with my content, but I wasn't publishing consistently. And if you go back and you look through the analytics and the income data, things were not growing. I was living your prototypical solopreneur guy life who had just established what quote unquote passive income and was sort of just like living off of it. I would attribute that to not having a clearly defined vision, which I gained after I read Debt Free You by Zach Bissonette, learned about the true cost of college and the struggle that a lot of people go through. And that combined with a lot of the feedback I was getting from my audience. But also, I was not treating myself as a professional. I was still almost doing the hobby thing. So after that year and a half period of stagnation, I decided to get really serious. I read the book, The Motivation Hacker by Nick Winter, which I think is a fantastic read for anybody who wants to become better at consistently following their habits and more motivated on a daily basis. I signed up for a tool called Beeminder, which tracks your goals and will actually take your money from you if you don't do them. And I told myself, and I made this accountable on Beeminder, I'm going to publish one podcast and one blog post every single week. And if I don't, I'm going to lose money. And then when I started the YouTube thing, I just tacked that on. All right, one blog post, one podcast, one YouTube video every week. Otherwise, I'm losing money. Wow. That was really successful for a long time. And you can start to see all of the charts go up at that point. I think 6 months later, I published my first book. And that was because I set a hard and fast 500-day per word writing goal for that book. And I was on the hook for that as well. I started to use accountability in these commitment devices, and that was very, very helpful for me. So I think structure is helpful. I got through that. Luckily, the failure was not like I was broke or anything. I don't have like a I was broke story.
Right, but actually, I cut you off because when you get into a rut like that, it really is. It's horrible. It's horrible because you made all this progress up to this point. You're like, oh, I achieved this goal. I got some passive income, whatever that is. And then you're like, oh, what do I do now? I think Tim Ferriss talks about that. Oh, boredom is like the greatest enemy. And to your credit, you just made a video, guys. Check it out. It's called The 3 Ways to Get Out of an Unmotivated Rut on Thomas Frank's YouTube channel. But yeah, there's just this sick anxiety, this restlessness that comes with that you touched on there.
But I definitely felt that I wasn't living up to my potential. And I was almost doing the people who followed me a disservice by not working hard enough. I wasn't taking it seriously. So greatest success, the one that sticks out in my mind was getting the opportunity to produce a Crash Course series. This sticks out in my mind because the channel Crash Course was one of my big inspirations for getting into YouTube. They make, in my opinion, some of the best educational content that exists on YouTube. I was watching their world history series and their biology series for a really long time. And they have millions of subscribers. So starting out on YouTube, I'm sitting there with my 200 and I'm like, man, wouldn't it be cool to someday be on Crash Course? But you see them as like these gods of the pantheon, which is really silly. Now that I've learned, the subscriber number doesn't mean they're going to act like a god of the pantheon. They're actually just like nerdy people who are pretty good at media production and business. And, hopefully I come off that way and not as some sort of Greek god pantomime. Several years went by, and just slowly but surely, I just took little actions that I thought might get me closer to that goal. I found ways to sort of on the internet meet Hank Green and some of the people who worked with Crash Course. And then eventually my second VidCon, I signed up for this mentor session. And I don't know if it was random or not, but I was placed with Hank Green and I got to talk with him for about half an hour. And then at the end of that session, as I'm walking out, I said, by the way, Hank, what about a Crash Course study skills? And he says, well, write me a script and send it to me and we'll see what happens. And the funny thing is I spent 6 months like paralyzed, afraid to write an imperfect script and didn't get it to him. And one day I just sat down, I wrote the whole thing in one day. I sent it to him and apparently he had forwarded to his team and the team got really excited. And I was expecting that they would say, all right, we're going to do this like in 2 years. They came back and said, hey, it's January. could we like launch this series for August, next semester? So I spent the rest of, that 6-month period writing an entire curriculum, writing 10 episode scripts, and then flying to Missoula twice to film them. And then that series actually did launch in August of 2017. And that was it was so cool seeing that come true, because I've never been the kind of person who's like, I want to be an astronaut. So I think like the Crash Course thing was my biggest goal, and seeing it happen was really cool.
What you just heard was a micro clip from episode 39 with Thomas Frank. If you would like to hear the rest of this episode, you can find the full interview in the queue. It's episode 39. Episode 39. It's filled with tactical insights on how to live an incredibly proactive lifestyle. Thomas Frank has built a YouTube channel up from just 200 subscribers to now well over 1 million subscribers. He has an active, engaged audience. You may have actually seen one of his videos without realizing that it was Thomas Frank's video. Thomas is creating incredible content, writing amazing books, and he has an incredible podcast. Thanks for listening.
Congratulations on making it to the end of this episode. What about this episode stood out to you? Next, I need your help sharing this show. I want this podcast to impact and reach 6,000 people per episode by August 31st, 2019. And I want us to reach 15,000 people per month by March 29th, 2020. Have you been enjoying multiple episodes of The Heart Healthy Hustle? I'm thrilled to share with you an exclusive invitation to join our new Facebook community. To get to know other Heart Healthy Hustlers, simply go to thehearthealthyhustle.com/Facebook, where you can expect to see different members of our community being featured weekly in Facebook Live calls. I appreciate all of your love and support, and I will see you in the next episode. As always, be generous on every occasion. There is a story for you, and live wide open.